Thank you for joining me on this Saturday. I'm meteorologist Brian Shields, and thank you for being part of this weather community. This here, a major threat in the Gulf of Mexico. This area is going to work its way close to the Yucatan Peninsula. Heaviest weather will stay to the north, just to the north of Cuba, and then trek its way right toward Florida and near the northern Bahamas. So a huge heads up that this is going to be a very, very significant system. It is developing in yesterday's video. I mentioned that if it is developing today, that is a strong sign that this is not only going to become a tropical storm, but it's also going to become a hurricane. So again, this is going to develop and it's going to work its way off toward the east and northeast over the next several days. I want to show you the models in this, what's going on in the environment, the heat content. That's a little sciencey, but it is super important in this. And I mentioned that's one of the biggest ingredients in the entire hurricane season. And then we'll mention Kirk and Leslie and some of the rain working into Trinidad and Tobago. So a lot to cover, but all eyes on this spot. That, by the way, that is Kirk making the curve. That'll head its way up toward Europe. Now, please take this with a grain of salt. This is the most likely path as of now. I'll adjust this as we go forward. Do I expect changes? Yes. Again, I expect changes out of this, but based on what I'm seeing right now, this would be the most likely path. Tomorrow, it would get organized even further and get close to tropical storm status. Monday, winds would be near 50 miles per hour or 80 kilometers an hour, but to the north of Merida, the heaviest weather to the north of Merida, to the north of Cancun. So that's good news for the Yucatan of Mexico. There'll be some gustier winds at times, could get some rain and storms, heaviest weather to the north. By Tuesday, winds would be near 80 miles per hour. It would be a hurricane, so it is going to get stronger quickly, and I'll show you that with the heat content in a second. My friends in Cuba, western Cuba, we may get some rain with some of those feeder bands eventually stretching in. Heaviest weather for Cuba to the north. Then on Wednesday, there's a chance this gets stronger quickly. As of now, maybe winds roughly around 100 miles per hour, category 2 hurricane, and then rolling its way right into the west coast of Florida. Could be Tampa, Sarasota, right around the Anna Maria Island. Could be a little bit more to the south. I still need to see where, kind of exactly where the center develops first. Once I see that today and tomorrow, I'll be able to pinpoint exactly where this would make landfall, but a threat right along all of the west coast of Florida as this will eventually make landfall. It looks like now late on Wednesday. Some of the models a little bit different. Canadian models a bit slower, but a direct hit with a hurricane into Florida again, and then work its way right across the peninsula and then just offshore by Thursday. By Thursday, there'll be some weakening, of course, as it crosses land. Not a ton, though. It'll still be near hurricane status by the time we get into Thursday, near the northern Bahamas. Much of the Bahamas will be okay. Northern Bahamas, that's where we could either have tropical storm or hurricane conditions, and then sort of gets tied into a front and weekends by the time we get into Friday. Now, for my friends that just dealt with Helene, all of this is generally going to be to the south. Not that I wish this on anyone, but that's good news. So this will impact different areas. I don't see it making a curve up to the north because there's a blocker, there's a front hanging here. But this is the most likely path with that late Wednesday or sometime on Wednesday landfall. Still need to fine tune that, but I wanted to show you what I'm thinking. Don't want to leave anything out. That's what I'm seeing. Now, breaking down the models, here's the American model. Has it becoming a hurricane? American model has it very aggressive, a little bit more to the north with a potential landfall right near the Tampa area. That's what it's seeing now. It's kind of the more northern track on this. Some of the other models are a little bit more to the south, but this has it as a category 2, trying to push category 3 hurricane status. Track is easier to forecast. Intensity is pretty difficult, so we'll wait and see on that. The European model is pretty close to that, just a little bit more south, but all of the models, all of the major models are showing this as a hurricane, generally category 1 or category 2. We'll get into those strengths ahead. Canadian model is more to the south and slower, making a landfall somewhere in South Florida by the time we get into Thursday, even Thursday night. So just a slower scenario. So it shows you that window, right? Anywhere from the kind of west central coast south through South Florida all at risk as of now for a direct hit. Now, this is going to be a broad system. These are not just one little icon that I have on the map. These are large, as we well know with what we saw with Helene, how expansive a tropical storm or hurricane is. Icon model has this a hurricane, just a touch to the south for a landfall versus what we saw with the American and the European model. So let me start with the American model just to give you a handle on the timing. There's a front in through here. This is later today. It's this area here, Western Gulf, Bay of Campeche, right through here, and you see things kind of gathering by tomorrow. Tomorrow it'll start to get more organized. Then tomorrow into Monday, that's when it should wrap up into a tropical storm. Merida over toward Cancun, you see heaviest weather would be to the north. There's the core of this. This is on Monday. Already a tropical storm. This is evolving very quickly. Water temperatures are very warm through here, and then this will slide its way. Here's western Cuba, and you see, as I was mentioning on Tuesday, heaviest weather north of western Cuba. There's going to be a lot of rain out ahead of it, which is not good news. Similar to what Helene did with lifting rain up to the north, there's going to be rain out ahead of this too. So the ground's already going to be very saturated, which will lead to more flooding. Then on Wednesday, the American model has a landfall sometime during the day Wednesday into the Tampa area. That's what it's showing right now. Yesterday was a little bit more to the south. Now it's a little bit more to the north with those hurricane conditions moving right in. Then by Thursday, it'll move offshore. Could get some tropical storm conditions in the northern Bahamas. Wait and see. I need to fine tune that track over toward Freeport, New Providence. If you're watching right now, I'll be able to fine tune that as we go over the next day or so. This is by Thursday. Now, this is the American model with the winds, and then I'll show you the European model. This gives you a better handle on the circulation we're seeing, kilometers an hour and miles per hour to keep everyone covered. I do this channel for safety, no flashy sponsors or anything like that. You see, here's that circulation. This is today into tomorrow, and you see more of that circulation right there. So tomorrow it'll start to get better organized, but Sunday into Monday, that's the time period that this should really strengthen into Milton, which is the next name on the list. And you see right there some of the reds popping up. Those would be some winds near hurricane force potentially later on Monday. These are gusts, 70 miles per hour already, but the core of that, so here's Merida, the core of that stays just to the north of the Yucatan, and then you see it really blossoming, unfortunately, winding up, and you see some of the yellows there. Winds 90 miles per hour, 145 kilometers an hour, so a hurricane at this point on Tuesday. The American model really hasn't intensified as it gets closer to the coast. Here's Tampa, Anna Maria Island. This gets closer to moving right in, watching the St. Petersburg area. Could it be more south near Fort Myers? Absolutely. That is a possibility. Everyone is watching this, of course, and it's going to impact the entire peninsula just because of how broad this is. And then it's going to work in on Wednesday. And then you still see some of those tropical storm conditions. Northern Bahamas right here, Wednesday into Thursday. Heaviest weather at this point would be either in the open waters or still impacting with that surge in some of those gustier winds and that flooding along the coast and into the northern Bahamas. So even Georgia could see a little bit of overwash and flooding as we work our way into Thursday. East coast of Florida all the way back through the Bahamas with still some strong winds as that continues to move offshore, and there'll be some weakening. Here's that European model. European model is what I've been leaning to over the last 5 to 6 days. Because it's had a really good handle on the environment. And that's what in the videos I've had, that's what I've been watching. And so far, it's been right. Here's some of the extra rain here, Trinidad and Tobago. We'll zoom down with some of the rain totals in a second. Nothing tropical there, though. And then we have that front that's draped right along here. Not all forecasts are equal. This one is trickier. Helene, it was so locked in. This one's trickier because there is a front also involved in this. Point being, there's a lot more ingredients in play. Now, this is by the time we get into Monday. Monday, the European model has this becoming a hurricane. Heaviest weather still to the north of the Yucatan. There's some of the extra rain out ahead of it, and that is a concern like we saw with Helene. Before Helene even moved into North Carolina, there were some spots that had over 10 inches of rain. There's going to be some batches of rain the next couple of days ahead of this. So the ground's going to be very saturated, flooding a huge concern because the system's not even there yet. This here is by Tuesday. Here's western Cuba. Here's Jamaica, Cayman Islands. Jamaica and the Cayman Islands, this all stays to the north. As this works its way into Florida, though, there may be some feeder bands, but you see here, this would be on Wednesday. This here's Wednesday morning, and then with a landfall sometime later on Wednesday, that would be the day for a landfall. Very similar to the American model, bringing this on shore near the Tampa, St. Petersburg area as a hurricane, generally as it looks like a Category 1 according to the European model. The American model is a little bit stronger. They're moving offshore still as a hurricane, big wind maker over toward the southeast U.S. in northern Bahamas. So northern Bahamas, we're going to get some stronger winds, of course, as we work our way Wednesday into Thursday. This here is by the time we get into very early on Thursday. That's the European model. Here's kind of the models with the line tracks. Now, this this red one here, that's the American model. But you see how some are even down to the south, and these aren't bad models. These are some of the bigger ones, and that's why I mentioned a wide variety of where this could come on shore. But remember, the storm is not one little point. It is going to be very large, impacting the entire peninsula, scraping by with some gustier winds and some showers and storms in the Yucatan. And once this moves offshore as well, watching the northern Bahamas for some of those impacts. Now, this is those models I just showed you, but a different chart, a different way. This shows the strength. This is 24 hours out, so a day out, 2 days out, 3 days out, 3 days out. So today, Saturday, Sunday, this would be Monday. Most of the models have this in this yellow shading here, which would be Category 1 hurricane. That's the most likely scenario. Now, a few of the models do want to strengthen this before it makes landfall into a Category 2 hurricane. So we could have some winds definitely over 100 miles per hour where this does roll on shore. Now the wind shear, that's the player. I mentioned the front. Wind shear for us is a very good thing. Those are winds up above our heads that can knock off the thunderstorm tops, right? And that would prevent things from really developing. The wind shear, though, will stay just to the north, so this will have its own environment, and that's why it should strengthen. Hopefully, some of this wind shear in the front is a little bit closer, and that would prevent some quicker development, but right now it looks like that wind shear will be just enough to the north to allow this to develop into that hurricane. I wish that front was a little bit closer, kind of getting tied into this. We'll wait and see though. Now, as far as the water temperatures are concerned, yes, Helene went over this area, but the water temperatures are still very warm, about 84, 85 degrees Fahrenheit, 29 degrees Celsius, right in this area. But on top of that, this is the map that really tells the story. I know this is a little hard to see, but you see right here where this is going to go over, you see this red pocket here? This is the heat content. So that means not only is the water warm at the surface, but even as you go down a little bit, it's still kind of warm. And as these systems roll over the water, it churns up generally cooler water. But in this instance, it's still going to churn up still warm water, which is just going to feed this system. So it's going to roll over one of these very hot pockets that we've seen in the Caribbean. That's what happened with Beryl. When Beryl went into St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Grenada, was able to feed off of some of those very not only warm water, but warm and deep water. And that's one of the issues with this. Now you can see the seas. Now all of the seas building in the Atlantic waters, no doubt, with Kirk out there, in Leslie out there, but watching this Bay of Campeche getting very rough today. Let me just, and this is tomorrow, taking out time. This here is Monday, and you see how the seas are going to build. Caribbean, for the most part, we're okay, clipping us by in the northern, northeastern sections of the Caribbean with some higher seas. This here is on Tuesday. This is meters and feet on your screen to keep you posted. Of course, there's going to be a significant surge where this comes on shore. Now, I mentioned my friends to the north that were impacted by Helene. The entire west coast of Florida was, though, impacted with incredible amounts of flooding with Helene, and we're going to see that again in some spots with that surge and those very high seas that work in. And then on Friday, Thursday, and Friday, very high seas off the coast of the southeast of the U.S. and the northern Bahamas. So Kirk and Leslie out there, this new system is going to be Milton. This is a major, major threat. And yes, it will impact some of the same areas that were impacted with Helene into the west coast of Florida. North, though, it will not be doing so. I did want to clarify that. Now we get a look at the big picture, too. Here is Kirk, all on track. There is Leslie, and there's the area we're watching in the western Gulf of Mexico, and a little disturbance that's going to ride by, so watching out for some increased rain. I'll zoom down in a second into the Caribbean, some increased rain, but Kirk makes its curve, and here is Leslie. Now, the same front that's a factor with what will become Milton is actually going to be the front that is eventually going to turn Leslie. This is on Tuesday, so by Tuesday afternoon it's still out there. It'll get a little bit closer to Bermuda and the Caribbean than Kirk did, but still a far distance. And here comes that front. This is by the time we get into Thursday, into Friday, and then it will eventually You can see here getting way out in time. We're a week out in time here. It will eventually grab Leslie and keep that one away. And by the way, Kirk is going to bring very high winds over toward the UK, parts of France. Tropical storm conditions are going to be moving into parts of Europe with Kirk. So it made a curve, which is good for some, but it's going to be bad for others. And there is Leslie as a hurricane over the next several days, but it will get caught up in a front. So there's that spot we're watching. Here are some of those showers and storms near Barbados, St. Lucia, Trinidad and Tobago, Grenada, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It's going to be a little stormy at times. So watching this develop here. So here's Belize. And Belize, this is all generally going to be staying all to the north. Heaviest weather north of the Yucatan and Mexico, and then north of Cuba. But look at that spot of rain right there. So as we work our way into tomorrow, and then especially on Monday, we're going to get some scattered showers and storms, southeastern sections of the Caribbean. So just a heads up, Trinidad and Tobago, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada, we could see some isolated areas of flooding, not losing sight of anything that's going on, of course, in the big picture across the Caribbean. Of course, the rain with this will be upwards of a foot wherever this eventually comes on shore. This is a 3-day rain total though, but you see the core of it just to the north there of the Yucatan, not as much as we work our way into the Cayman Islands. Jamaica though, we're going to have some scattered showers and storms around that could give us a couple inches of rain or 50 millimeters of rain. Same thing in the Dominican Republic, not as much in Haiti, but we'll get some scattered areas of rain and storms, the DR over toward Puerto Rico the next couple days, but Anguilla, Antigua, Barbuda, not a high chance of rain. But we get St. Lucia south, that's where that rain's going to pick up. Trinidad and Tobago for a 3-day total. We could have some spots over 100 millimeters of rain or 4 inches of rain. That's why I want to give you the heads up that we could see some additional flooding. We're not getting a named system moving in, but we are going to see a surge of moisture, especially by the time we get into Monday, with that better chance of some rain. And of course, watching out for some of the higher totals in some spots, Guatemala, but this is the spot we're watching over toward the Gulf. Mexico City to the north, mainly dry, all the way up throughout much of Texas, where it has been again too dry. So scattered areas of rain and storms for us in Jamaica the next few days, a 60% chance, but as Milton develops, that is to the north. Cayman Islands, that rain chance has dropped off and it will drop off further, but Trinidad and Tobago, scattered showers and storms, but Monday, a 60 to 70% chance. So we could get some flooding, especially in our southern zones, as some of that moisture feeds in both Monday into Tuesday, and we'll see those scattered showers and storms as well. Barbados and then back through St. Lucia, not all day, but we'll see that chance of some of those around. And that rain chance will pick up in Grenada on Monday, and as we work our way into St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Monday again, some of that moisture feeding in. So that heads up in the southeastern Caribbean that we're going to see that higher chance of rain as we start next week. Martinique, rain chance by Monday will be at 50%. And we do that again in Dominica. Today, though, only a 30% chance the next couple of days in Guadeloupe, 20 to 30% chance Antigua and Barbuda, 30 to 40% chance St. Kitts and Nevis and Montserrat, 30% chance the next 2 days Anguilla and St. Bart's. And the rain chance pretty minimal. St. Martin, Saba, and Statia were mainly dry, but some scattered areas of rain and storms across Puerto Rico could catch a couple showers. U.S. and British Virgin Islands. Rain chance about 30% in the Bahamas, but all eyes in the northern Bahamas as we work our way into the upcoming week with what will become Milton. Turks and Caicos mainly dry as we go throughout the day today. Now, I showed you the Dominican Republic where we could get some higher totals. Scattered areas of rain and storms possible. Rain chance about 30% by tomorrow. May catch a shower or two as you're coming back from church in Haiti tomorrow. Belize, rain chance 30% the next 2 days, 20 to 30% chance in Aruba. We'll do that again in Curacao over toward Bonaire. Rain chance present, but it stays on the low side. Guyana has picked up, same thing in Suriname. Chance of some scattered areas of rain and storms. Now the rain chance, watching it in Cuba, mainly western Cuba, but the heaviest weather with Milton will be to the north of Cuba. Costa Rica, Panama, watching out for some areas of flooding. 50% chance as we get through Nicaragua. 30 to 40% chance the next few days in Honduras. Rain chance 40% the next 2 days, Guatemala and El Salvador, but where we get it, we could get those tropical downpours. Rain chance will bounce up by next week in Mexico City. And of course, watching the Yucatan Peninsula, especially as we work our way into early in the week, Heaviest weather, though, with Milton will be just to the north in the Gulf of Mexico over the open waters. Northern Colombia, rain chance 50% by Monday, looking at a 40% chance in northern Venezuela, and an isolated chance of a passing shower in Bermuda. So all eyes on the Gulf of Mexico, a major threat. It is already developing. The rain will be building near the Yucatan and Cuba. Heaviest weather just to the north, and it does look like Sunday, tomorrow, into Monday, this is going to quickly develop into a hurricane. Watching Kirk, Leslie out there, and another tropical wave off the coast of Africa. Not a threat, just want to let you know that I'm watching everything out there in the Atlantic Basin. So thank you for spreading the word about this system. Yes, there will be some changes, but thank you for getting the accurate word out and just kind of spreading that information. I hope you're doing well. Please stay safe and have a good rest of your day.